The Security and Justice Bill is still being bounced backwards and forwards between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. It's got very grave implications for justice in the UK. Roy, you've been following this.
Yes, I have, yeah. They're called closed material proceedings, but we know them as the secret courts, which are coming in 8th of May if the Lords and the Commons can agree on something. They're playing what they call ping pong with it at the minute. They're trying to get amendments put onto it, and it keeps getting passed backwards and forwards, and eventually
a lot of resistance.
And what the resistance is about really is that the politicians, if it gets through without any amendments, then basically it's going to be the politicians that decide when it should be a secret court, and the amendments are trying to make that the decision of the judges.
Which would make a big difference.
Yeah, it would make an enormous difference. We don't want politicians deciding when we should have secret courts. We don't want anybody deciding that we should have secret courts, really, but it's going to be a lot fairer if the judges make that decision.
So we could soon be in the position where a politician can decide that you basically don't have a free, normal trial of any sort.
Absolutely, and it's even more sinister than that, really. The defendant would be appointed a special advocate, and he's a barrister that's security cleared, and he would be able to talk to the judge and agree things between themselves. But that special advocate won't even will have limited access to the defendant. So even the defendant and his barrister, there's going to be a limited discussion between them.
And the defendant might never know what the charges are and what the evidence is.
No, not at all. He's not even given a broad outline of what the evidence is against him. And the special advocates themselves have said that this is a departure from the foundational principle of natural justice.
Well, it certainly is, isn't it?
Well, it is.
It's back to the Middle Ages.
Yeah, it is. It's the complete disintegration of a free society, really. We've got Claire Alger, Executive Director of the Civil Liberties Organisation Reprieve, saying secret courts will mean the end of the British right to a fair trial as we know it, and will put government above the law.
Well, it would do, and especially if you had an even worse government. Then who knows who's going to be the government in 5 years' time?
Well, I'm not expecting the government to be anywhere near as friendly in 5 years' time as the one we've got now. We've got Conservative MP Andrew Tyree, and he's saying that the reason they don't want it, partly the reason they don't want it, I mean, there are security issues there. I mean, there are some legitimate concerns there that are being addressed. But he's saying that part of it is because we've got people like Binyam Mohammed, who was kept in Guantanamo Bay, was then released and sued the government for being tortured.
Perhaps.
Also Sheikh Ahmed, as we've just seen. And then we've got Sami al-Sadi, who was rendered by the British Secret Services to the Gaddafi regime. And that wasn't only him, that was his family, that was his wife and 2 children as well. So extraordinary rendition.
They kidnapped the man, his wife and children, handed them over to Gaddafi, who they now say is one of the world's big villains, to be tortured. And now that they might want to take action against them for that, they're introducing secret courts where nobody will know what's going on, and they'll basically be run by the government.
Yeah. So basically, one of the reasons for these secret courts is so that the government doesn't have to admit to torture and kidnap, really, which is what is going on. And if we see this in a wider context now, we've also had recently, we've got press regulation coming in with the Leveson affair, which is going to, curtail free speech of the press again. Probably not now, but in a few years' time, that's how it will come out. And we have
super injunctions.
Yeah, super injunctions as well is another, and the British public have accepted that.
I'm not sure if they even know what they are. Can you tell us?
Well, a super injunction is where if there's a super injunction put on a subject, then you're not even allowed to talk about it. You're not even allowed to say that there is a super injunction on it. So that is just the press is just not allowed to go anywhere near that.
So if I want to bring an action against you, I can persuade the judge to basically not only stop you saying anything in public, but to even not allow you to say that you've been told to not say anything in public.
Indeed, yeah.
Talk about a muzzle. That's a real gag, isn't it? It makes traditional gagging writs look like child's play.
Yeah. I'd just like to put that in context again. With the super injunctions, I mean, with all these things, there's always the government telling us that they're only going to be used for specific purposes. But with the super injunctions, we saw the Trafigura affair, where actually what that was Trafigura was caught dumping toxic waste off the coast of Somalia, and there was a super injunction put around that. So it's not just for security and national security reasons. It can be used for commercial reasons.
So they really did. I mean, that case that I gave you wasn't really pretty serious. Some company who's accused, we'll have to say that they were accused rather than they definitely did it from what we know, were accused of dumping toxic waste, and for some reason the British judge decided that was so important that should be kept secret that they issued a super injunction, and nobody's now allowed to talk. Perhaps we're not allowed to talk about it.
No.
How extraordinary. Thanks very much, Roy.
No problem.